Hello and welcome to the Werner podcast on iCode Media. We are almost at the end of 2025, and I want to thank you for coming along this journey with us this year, both on the Werner podcast, the Book Nerds podcast and group, and the Chris Wolf podcast, really all of the iCode Media projects. It's been a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it has been a lot of fun for you all, and I think that with your ideas and your insights, the guests that we've had on the show, the conversations we've had collectively, we are all better. We've all learned something along the way. So look forward to 2026. I want to share with you a thought that popped into my head this last weekend, and it reminded me of something that I was taught years ago and thought it would be an appropriate time to share with you all. Hopefully, in my goal in sharing this is that it creates some thoughts, some conversations within yourself, maybe even some conversations within your team. So years and years and years ago, going back probably 20, 25 years, if not more, I remember a coach that I had looked at all of us and said, "Hey, do you guys know how to tie your shoes?" Which I thought was a silly question. So I will propose to you listening, do you know how to tie your shoes? My guess is, unless you are early elementary school, the answer is, yeah, of course I know how to tie my shoes. And my coach, when he asked this question, we all responded and said, yeah, of course we know how to tie our shoes, coach. So what are you getting at? He said, no, are you sure you know how to tie your shoes? And we said, yeah, coach, we know how to tie our shoes. And he said, well, some of you do, and some of you really don't. We said, what do you mean? All our shoes are tied. And he said, well, let me rephrase it. You know how to tie your shoes, but are you tying them the best way possible? Have you really looked at tying your shoes? And we said, well, how do you know if you've tied them right or not? Right? They're tied. And he said, well, look down. And if the bows of your shoes are parallel with your shoe, then there's a better way to tie them. If the bows of your shoes are perpendicular, so laying perpendicular to the shoe, falling down the sides of the shoe, right, then you are tying them the right way. And he said, but if you don't know why that's the case, you're really not tying your shoes because you don't understand the why. You're just going through emotion, and you might have gotten the right answer by luck. So none of us had a clue what he was talking about. And said, well, help us understand. What are you getting at? Why is this even important? And he paused and said, so here's the reason why tying your shoes is important. Number one, your shoe coming untied during sporting activity can be a problem. You don't want loose shoes on a basketball court. You don't want loose shoes when you're running on a soccer pitch. You need your equipment to work. You need to have it tied properly. And if what you're doing is just knotting and knotting and knotting and tying knots in, trying to keep it from coming untied, it might work, but there might be a better way of doing it. In wrestling, I remember even taping my shoelaces so they wouldn't come untied. He said, but you also should be asking and questioning yourself on everything that you're doing. Is this the best way to do something? Is this the ideal or the optimal way of doing something? Because you want to get better. You want to try to get a little bit better, and you want to take advantage of every opportunity you have. He said some people might think it's cheating. He's like, but I'm not cheating. I'm just trying to stack the cards in our favor and give you the best opportunity to succeed that you can be. And how horrible it would be if you missed a shot because your shoe was loose, or you slipped because your shoe was loose, or you stepped on a shoelace in wrestling and slip or in a race, you had to stop to tie your shoe or it slowed you down. He goes, you never want to have, yourself be the reason why, or your equipment be the reason why you didn't succeed the level you need to. I said it also, you don't look professional when your shoes are untied. And as an athlete, be curious. So he taught us the correct way to tie our shoes, and he taught us why that was the correct way to tie our shoes. So the reason I remember this right now is I was at my daughter's flag football tournament this weekend, and I like to take pictures at her tournament. I'm a budding amateur sports photographer. I haven't taken a class yet. I want to. So if you are a sports photographer and you know any really good, especially online classes, please shoot them my way. But I'm taking pictures of her. I'm sitting on the ground because I like to sit low and have the camera angle shoot up at the athletes. That way it gives them that superhero, larger than life look. And I looked over at the lady standing next to me. Actually, I looked at her shoes because they were right next to me, and saw that her shoes, the bows of her shoes, were parallel to her shoe, meaning she had tied it what I now appreciated as not the ideal way of tying her shoes. I won't go as far as saying wrong because they were tied, but there could be a better way of doing so. And that reminded me of this lesson. It also reminded me of a TED Talk. Actually, I believe it was the first 3-minute TED Talk ever given from a stage by Terry Moore back in 2005, on where he talks about the proper way or the more efficient way of tying your shoes. So I will link that to the show notes because I think it's a great 3-minute little watch, and it gives you a visual of tying your shoes. So going back to my coach, when he explained the why on what makes a good shoe knot, he said really there's two things that a good knot does that a bad knot doesn't do, right? The first is that it holds itself, and actually it as you tug on the your foot tugs on the shoe, it tightens the knot, so it's a lot less likely to come untied, and that's obviously important because you don't want your shoes to come untied. He said, but secondarily, when you do it right, it looks better. So when you look at a shoe, when you think of a shoe, the bow always hangs to the side in a perpendicular fashion. It doesn't go up and down with the shoe. He said, so when you do things right, it functions better and it looks better. So the reason being is when you tie your shoe, your shoe bow the proper way, it creates a square knot, and the square knot is a knot that tightens on itself and holds itself. If you tie it the incorrect way, it creates a granny knot, which is why the bow looks the way it does, and it tends to get looser quicker. So that small little lesson has really carried with me through my personal and professional life, in a sense of always trying to find the optimal way of doing something, a better way of doing something. It may come across at times that I'm questioning why we're doing it, and I'm not questioning why we're doing what we're doing. I'm questioning to learn so that we can adjust as necessary. I don't just recommend Peak Pro to my patients. I use it daily, and so does my whole family. Honestly, it's one of those rare products my wife and daughters all love. So much so they actually fight over who stole the tea tree cleanser, the peptide cream, or even the hyaluronic acid. I had no idea this would be the case when I introduced them to the Peak Pro products. But I've learned they're a great company to work with, and their lineup covers everything from daily eyelid hygiene to deep hydration. I highly recommend checking them out. We've got a special affiliate link in the show notes, and use code Werner for 25% off. The way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo, elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, to hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications,
LifeMeter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being.
This kind of became a tagline statement, if you will, or this idea from Ted Lasso, specifically the bar scene where he was throwing darts, and he talked about being curious, not judgmental, but being curious, asking questions to find out more and to find out why. So whether you're trying to optimize your shoe tying, trying to get better, being curious, to me, it's all different ways of saying the same thing, which is, how can we do this better? How can we be more efficient in what we're doing? And with the speed of change that we've seen in technology, the speed of opportunities to change, I think it's really important, more so now than ever, to be curious, to try to understand how we can do something a little bit better. And to do that, you have to ask questions of what you're doing now, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your professional life at the practice, whatever the case may be. You know, if you're training for a race, is there a better way to train for your race? I learned that this year as I'm training for my first full marathon in probably a decade. And even when I trained to run the first half I'd run in about 4 or 5 years that I ran earlier this year with Skylar, I had always trained to go faster. I've never had a training plan that slowed me down. And the training plan that I'm following now slows me down. I do a lot more slower paced runs, which was really hard to get accustomed to, but the benefits have become better. Who would have thought slowing down helps me go faster? But it's worked. And if you're a runner, you probably already knew that, but I didn't. And so I'm learning new things along the way. I'm curious to try it. It's really hard when I'm on those runs to slow down, especially at first. My little Garmin watch telling me, hey, I'm going too fast, right? But I feel like I'm running well. I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. But what I learned is that when I go out too hard on those days and I run too hard, even though I'm feeling good, my recovery takes longer. And over a couple weeks, I'm less productive in my training than if I follow the set schedule, which, like I said, includes lots of slower paced runs. We look at our practice. Is there a different way of doing the intake forms in the practice? Is there a different way of putting our patients through our pre-testing for a comprehensive eye exam? Is there a different way of communicating with patients that maybe better isn't the right word, but more efficient, right? Have we stayed on top of all of the changes in the billing and coding? If you haven't, I strongly suggest checking out iCode Education and some of their courses around billing and coding and documentation, because as the rules change and we're not staying on top of those, we may be doing work that we don't need to do. We may be leaving money on the table by undercoding because we don't understand the rules of the code, or we may not be taking advantage of different codes that have been given to us, like the G2211 code that gives us credit for the relationships that we have with these patients. And so, you know, are we doing our best to stay on top of different strategies? Are we looking at our compensation plans for our team? Are we looking for our professional development plans for our team? And is what we have now the best way to do it? Patients are customers, and customers want something different. Are we adjusting what we're offering and how we're engaging with them so that we are helping them get what they need and what they want, which I think are both very important, sometimes different things. But are we really just at the end of the day questioning and being curious about what we're doing so that we can get better with that intent of getting better? A really good friend of mine who we hope to have on the podcast in the near future is a professional soccer player down in Mexico. She plays for the women's national team, the Mexican women's national team, and is an author. So we're going to talk about her new book, The Footballer's Handbook. But Christina's mantra is better every day. And that's taken her from really being homeless to, the top of women's soccer and that journey along the way. And kudos to her for documenting it all and writing it to, help others learn what she had to learn along the way. So hopefully they can learn it sooner and excel and achieve their goals more quickly. So I want to leave you with this thought. It's something that recurs back in my thoughts and challenges me, has for the last couple of decades, and I assume it will going forward. But look down at your shoes, as long as you're not driving, but look down at your shoes right now and ask yourself, is there a better way to tie my shoes? And then expand that out. Is there a better way, a more efficient way, a more optimal way of doing, ultimately all the little things that we do so that we can have better outcomes for ourselves, for our patients, for our families, for our teams, and make 2026 that much better of a year. So if I don't see you before the end of the year, have a wonderful new year. Happy holidays. If I do see you, I look forward to catching up.